what really goes on financially. And so I'm going to pull up something that people really need to check out. And so, what are they getting ready to do? Well, they're getting ready to bring about a financial purge. Let me make sure that my volume is good. Turn mine up. There we go. That a financial purge is getting ready to take place, and it's predominantly going to be against black people, and then like the Hispanic later on. And so I'm gonna drop a few things on you so that you can see it, so that you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you can pull up that screenshot, because I don't want to just tell you something. I want you to be able to see it also. So we're going to show you what the government is getting ready to do, and this is going to affect everybody. And so go ahead if you can pull that up for me. So I want them to see it, so they don't say I said it. You know, it's not what I said. It's just what I know.
Lagging.
Say that again.
I'm lagging. Click on it.
Okay. Oh goodness. I don't have mine clicked in because I'm using the camera. So while she's getting that because it's lagging, so let me go ahead and give you what actually took place, right? So instead of giving you all the financial terms, let me just make it kind of simple for you. So everything started with COVID-19, right? And you know, a lot of times our people don't work in the financial sector, so we don't understand how things actually operate. So I'm going to explain it to you. So everything started with COVID-19, and so we're going to have a look and see how this is a domino effect. You know, I tell people all the time, it's chess, not checkers. So I'm going to read this to you and see how all of this is going to play out, right? So we got to go, in order to know what actually happens, you got to go back to the beginning. In the beginning, this is going to be COVID-19, and you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. So it reads, public, and this right here is coming off of a website that I got, and you can go and you can go look this up. And it says public private corporation for pandemic preparedness and response. Now watch how they play this, y'all. This ain't no conspiracy. This is all real. I mean, you can go and research this. It says the next severe pandemic would not only cause great illness and loss of life, but could also trigger, pay attention to that word for trigger, major cascading economic and social consequences that could contribute greatly to global impact and suffering. Now, pay attention to that right there. I want you to see what is being done. And this is their writing, and this is part of a foundation that has something to do with Bill Gates, right? And so it's telling you that the pandemic has the ability to not only bring about a loss of life, but could also trigger major cascading economics. Listen, when it talks about those consequences. So right now, they're tying COVID-19, which was a pandemic that caused great illness and great death, they're connecting it to economics. And you're going to get ready to see why here in a little bit. So let's see if we can pull up the next one. If it takes you a minute, I'll just talk through it so everybody can understand what actually took place while they're getting it. So watch this right here. And then I'm going to break it all down to you so you understand what's actually being said or being done. Now, all of this is stuff that I had copied. The Federal Reserve escalated its fight against inflation this week. So everybody knows they've been talking about inflation, and you really need to pay attention to all the stuff that they're talking about on the news. Again, I work in it, so I know how this thing is working. Instituting a major rate increase and saying more likely will follow. So they've already raised the interest rate, and they're saying they're going to keep on raising the interest rate because they're trying to combat inflation. Now watch what ends up happening, and then I'll link it all together for you. It says the moves will cause a jump in the number of unemployed Americans by the end of next year, the central bank said. So the central bank are the ones that have all this money moving around. The Feds have put forward a series of aggressive interest rate hikes in recent months as it tries to slash price increases by slowing the economy and choking off demand. So the problem is, and I learned this when I went to business college, everything in the economy is based on supply and demand. So they're trying to get rid of the demand. So the less people demand, the more they can bring the price of inflation down. As long as there's a demand, people are going to keep on getting things, and it's going to keep the interest rate raised high. And that's a problem because it's killing the economy. And you'll see why I'm giving this to you. But the approach risks tipping the United States into a recession and causing widespread joblessness. Pay attention to that. Fed Chair Jerome Powell on Wednesday acknowledged that rate hikes would cause pain for the U.S. economy as growth slows and unemployment rises. He added, however, that a failure to restore price stability would mean far greater pain later on. So what he's letting us know is some people are going to have to hurt, like really, really hurt. But some people have to hurt so that it can help us down the road. So watch who he says this is going to affect. Black and Hispanic workers. Now listen to what they say. Black workers would be among the first to lose their jobs if unemployment spikes. But he already told you it has to. Since they're disproportionately concentrated in industries sensitive to economic downturns, racial discrimination often influences choices made by the companies about which workers to fire, the economist said. The Fed's actions really do mean some, disparate impact for black workers in the American economy. Michelle Holder, a labor economist at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, told ABC News. Now, watch this. The vulnerability of black workers in the downturn manifested during the most recent recession in spring 2020, when the pandemic caused higher unemployment for black workers at every educational level when compared with their white counterparts. So let's talk about that. So let's put all of this together. I think I'm good right there for a minute. So let me break this down so you understand how this thing actually works. And so it's kind of, if you can bring me up, can you bring me up bigger? I think they might be able to read it. It's hard for me to read it. But if you can just pull my screen up some more. So I really want to drop some science on everybody so that they really understand it, because a lot of times reading, you're like, well, what does that mean? So the first thing that I want to let you know is, we know that COVID-19 is not a real flu, right? We all know that. They can say it came from the wet market, which it's biological, so it does have it is made with something that is a living creature. But we also know that it was created in a lab, right? We do know that. That's a fact. Now, here's what ended up happening. When COVID broke out, everybody was afraid. Everybody was afraid. Can you get me back in frame? It's having a hard time getting me back in frame.
You're having a hard time getting it moving.
Okay. So she's trying to get me back in full frame. But you definitely need to pay attention to this, right? So here's what ended up happening. COVID was not an accident. We know that COVID got spread, and they knew who it was going to. I mean, if we be honest, they sent it overseas, and it affected the elderly white. It killed them off. And then when it got done doing this job over in Europe, they brought it over here to the United States, right? We know this is a fact. This is not nothing that is being made up. And then COVID mainly killed black people, right? And so the problem is that most black people was running around saying stuff like, the blood of Jesus, and I'm protected. And a lot of them got killed by COVID by not using wisdom and taking precautions, right? I mean, that's just wisdom. The wisdom is, I'm a believer, I'm saved, but if God gives me it, listen, if God sends the death angel, even if he was behind it, and he sends the death angel, and he says, if you don't put blood around your doorstep, you're going to die. I'm going to put the blood around it. I'm going to listen. But COVID is moving and is killing off like a lot of black people, right? And so now there's this great fear of what's going on because so many people are dying from COVID. Well, in order to calm people's fears, what people don't know, and this is why we get to the nuts and the bolts of it, right? Financially. So what did they do? They created the PPP loans. They started giving people COVID-19 checks and all of this unemployment. And so what it did was it took everybody's mind off of worrying about COVID for a minute. So all of a sudden people have got money, so nobody's thinking about COVID anymore, right? So everybody's like, well, we all to the good. You know, we got COVID, we got these checks, we got this money. But here's the problem that we didn't see. Number one, money, I work in finances, money is not cheap and money is not free. Let me drop that on you right there. Money is not cheap and money is not free. So they're giving away all of this free money. So everybody's got this money to start spending in the economy. So everybody's happy. And they say, well, I've got my COVID check. I've got my COVID check. But there's a catch-22 to it. When all that money got flooded in the market and we was like, okay, you know, it was kind of like giving somebody a pacifier saying, well, let me give this to you so you don't worry about COVID. And everybody was happy with it. The problem is that now that COVID has calmed down, the government has come back and said, hey, COVID don't chilled out. Y'all good now. That was just to get y'all past y'all fear and y'all worry. We need to get that money back because we didn't really just give y'all that money to give it to you, because you can't give away free money from the government. You can't lend free money. There has to be a value attached to it, lest it has no value. That's what your interest rate comes in, because that is the value of borrowing money. So there's two things that you need to understand. Money is not free and credit is not free. If you're going to get money or if you're going to establish credit, it is going to cost you something. And the reason why credit costs, because you exchange credit for money, right? That's what you end up doing. You exchange your credit for money. That's what ends up taking place. I don't know what happened there. You just popped the screen out, but hopefully I'm still in there. So that's why I tell people, if it costs you $500 to fix your credit, pay the $500, fix your credit. If you get your credit fixed for $500, what's $500 when I can turn around and get you $5,000? Credit is not cheap and it's not free, and neither is money. So what happened is that all of this money got into the circulation, right? So everybody's got all of this money. But now that everybody's got all this money, they're buying up all the supplies. The supplies were already being going low because during COVID, everybody took a bunch of supplies. People got toilet paper. Everybody just stacked up everything, right? So now the supplies were already low, and now you have all of this money in the market. Well, once all of the money hit the market, what did it do? It triggered inflation, which it meant that since there's so much money in the market, they had to start raising the prices of everything to try to price people out, right? This is something that they had to do, and this is no lie. This is how it works. The truth of the matter is, if you don't understand finances, you think everybody's supposed to have money, but there was just too much. Right now, it's too much money in the economy. You know, there's people that won't even go to work. You can't even get people to go to work anymore because they're feeling like, I don't made all this money during the COVID. And they never really had this kind of money before. This money came about because of COVID, right? So there's people that went and started, a lot of them were side hustles, thinking that they're going to make it off of that. But the reality is, unless you got proper document and you got real credit, a side hustle is only going to take you so far. You need a real business. A real business requires real credit. I mean, you got to really be in the system to get credit and all this other stuff, right? So all this money is out here. And then with all of the money being out, I also work in the housing market. So what ended up happening? Now watch where I'm going with this, and you're going to catch this. People started raising the price of housing, right? Housing just shot up through the roof. And in the midst of housing going up through the roof, you had people overbidding on houses. And so there was clients that I would talk to, they couldn't even get a house because every time you go get one, somebody's overbidding 15 and 20,000. Now let me remind you of something. That money that a lot of these people are bidding, was saving. It's meant for us to make money, but keep money in the bank. But everybody's taking all their money out the bank and they're just spending it wildly, right? So what happens? The price of housing goes up. Well, in the midst of the price of housing going up, now listen, if you're not a homeowner, you really need to listen to this right here, because you might think that this doesn't affect you, but it does. So in the midst of that, when the price of housing goes up, some people couldn't afford to buy a house anymore, right? Because the interest rate was going up, and they were getting outbid. And that's why I kept telling people, if you're going to buy a house, you need to holler at me and hurry up and get one, because I'm looking at the interest rate start to tick up. Corporations got involved because the interest rate on the money was like 2.25%, which is ridiculous. You can't give money away that cheap. But the government was doing this. They were giving all of this money away to corporations with the interest rate of 2.25%, and so all of these corporations got involved in the housing game. So they start buying up whole neighborhoods. So then they bought up so many neighborhoods, people could not even go and buy a house. The corporations owned them, and then they would only rent them to them, right? So that's problem number one. Problem number two was this. People started doing all this Airbnb, and they just, it was just money for people to do stuff with, and they never had this money. And if anybody knows anything about history, the government does not give you money to start businesses. But people was doing it. They was taking their COVID money, flipping it, buying Louis, Gucci, people just going wild. And that's going to come back to bite. It already has come back to bite us. Now watch this right here. With that being done, here's what has taken place. The government has looked around and seen all of this money in circulation. Regular people can't even buy a house. And a house is the most valuable asset that you can buy. So regular people can't buy. So the Fed starts raising the interest rate to make people like corporations come out of the housing market, because they're buying blocks and buying houses, and they're not buying them to sell them. They're buying them to rent them. So the Fed starts raising the interest rate, right? So now they know it's going to cost a lot more to go and buy these houses. So the market starts to cool off. But here's the problem with the higher interest rate, and it's really, even at where it's at now, like 6.5%, I would still buy a house, and I'm going to tell you the reason why. Those that are renting the houses know that people don't have the money or the credit to buy a home. So they've all come together and decided, since y'all can't buy a home, we're raising the price on your rent, because we got y'all. You should have bought a house when you had an opportunity. You should have got your credit together. You didn't do it. So now the renters are raising the price because they know, what are you going to do about it? You can't afford a house. So it's kind of like the difference between buying a car that you can finance or going to a buy here, pay here lot. And so a lot of people are caught right now with rent that is going up. Now, I pay less for my mortgage than a lot of people pay for rent, and I'm in control of my mortgage. My mortgage ain't going nowhere unless I go refinance. So they're going to keep on raising rent, and they're not going to stop, because they feel like it's your fault that you didn't get your credit together. It's your fault that you didn't buy your home. They're going to keep on raising it until you can't afford it and get kicked out, and they put somebody else in that'll pay it. Listen, y'all, it is a lot that is going on, and we're not even halfway done with that. But you need to really think about what I'm telling you. They're going to keep on raising the price of rent because you can't afford a house, or your credit is not good enough to get you a house. That's what I've been telling people. Get in a house. So they're going to make you pay for not having your credit on that one, right? So that's one of them. Now watch this. In the midst of that taking place, this is what I want you to get ready to see. The feds have raised the interest rate on housing. They're raising the interest rate on business loans because they want to get people out of business that really can't afford it. You can get a business loan, but they really feel like if you get a business loan, it's because you got a real business. You're not just a fly-by-night. That still did not cool the economy off. They said we need people to stop spending money. Well, people have still continued to spend money, right? So now they've come with a new one. The only way to bring down inflation and stop people from spending money is to get rid of jobs. If you get rid of jobs, then they won't have that free money to spend. So what do? They've made a decision. Some people got to become unemployed for the rest of us to make it. So they have picked out black people first to be the sacrificial lamb, to say, y'all first in line for the slaughter. We're going to make sure that we go after the industries that y'all work in, and we're not going to give them money. We're not going to give them perks. We're going to put your bosses in positions where they're going to have to lay off or fire somebody. And we're telling y'all we're coming for the area that black people work in and minorities work in. And we're letting y'all black people know, first off, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, and I've been telling people this for the longest. It ain't whether you're a Democrat or a Republican that it's going to matter. If you are black, they are coming after your job. They're saying if we get y'all out of the game, then we can bring inflation down. So basically, black people and Hispanic people are going to become the slaughtered lamb. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. Why would they come for black people first? And let me drop a few nuggets on you, the reason why they're going to do this. Number one, black people spend more money as consumers than anybody. So they figure if we stop them and take their money away, they can't keep on pumping their money into the economy, and then we can bring inflation down. We've risen the interest rate on the house. We've risen the interest rate on business loans, and they realized that that did not have the effect that they wanted. Inflation is still high. And so they went back and looked at the paperwork and said, well, who's the problem? Tell you who's the problem. Now, mind you, it's the Federal Reserve that are making these decisions. They're not federal, and they don't hold a reserve. That's the funny thing about the Federal Reserve. They really, they just come up with numbers and pump money out or paper out and say this is what it's worth. And the government tells them pump some paper out, and they do it, and they say this is how much money we're going to put into the system. The problem is too many black people got money, and too many black people, instead of putting money up, saving it, or buying them a house or some property, they're putting it into the economy, which is running the price of food and gas up. And the only way to stop it is to take money away from black people so they don't have it. So if you get fired and you got to get an unemployment check, you don't have money to go throw into the economy and buy this and that, and it'll bring it down. Now, listen, I know it sounds crazy, but this is how the economy works. The sad part of it is, and I've been saying this forever, the reason why they can do that is because Asians have their own economic system where they spend money with each other. The Jews, they have their own economy where they spend money with each other. The Hispanics, they have their own economy where they spend money with each other. The only people who does not do real business and then spend money within their own community to create their own economy is black people. We're the only ones that don't do it. And so therefore, because we don't put money into our own self, into our businesses, we throw the money out there at them, at our counterparts, like the white people and people like them. They're saying, we don't need y'all money. We're trying to cool down this economy. And since y'all keep on giving us all this money that we don't need right now, we would take a drastic step and start unemploying and making y'all become unemployed so y'all can stop giving us money and put money in our economy, because we're the only people who don't have our own economy. I want you to think about that for a moment, and this is serious business. If we had our own economy, they couldn't come after us like that. But because we don't have our own economy, because we just don't believe in doing business, and then we don't believe in doing business with each other or whatever the case is, they're able to come in and mess with your money. And we're talking about, they said black people are going to get it, and then young people are going to get it. So I wouldn't be depending, unless I had some kind of job that, like medical or whatever the case is. If you just out here and you just thinking, okay, I'm just going to do what I want to do. If it was me, I'd be looking around, because I'm not telling you what they're thinking about doing. I'm telling you the powers that be have already decreed black people need to be unemployed so they can quit giving us all this extra money that we don't need right now. Because guess what? They understand the economy. They understand economics. They're not going to keep on paying all this money for food and gas. And the only people, the majority of the people that is causing it is black people running up, spending all their money on all of these things instead of spending with each other, keeping it within circulation of each other, putting it in their pockets and in their businesses. And right now they just don't need it. They don't, because they're trying to bring down the price of inflation, and it can't be done as long as black people keep putting money out there. So they're just going to start making sure that black people are unemployed. Then you get a government check, if that, and then they can monitor with your unemployment. You're not going to have money to spend, and then it'll bring the price of inflation down. Listen, if they can do that, and that's some real stuff. When you can look around at a whole group of people, of all the people, and say, black people, y'all got to be the first to go. That means that black people need to wake up, start figuring out an economy, start learning how to be better at business, start learning business instead of side hustles, like really learn real legitimate business, and learn how to buy houses and learn how to save money instead of just spending up every dime that you got. The biggest consumers in the United States are African Americans, and right now it's hurting everybody. The prices won't come down until people put money in the bank. And you know, I work with white people all the time. They are big at putting money in the bank, big on it. They got savings. Black people just spend and keep nothing in the bank, nothing. And that's what's hurting everybody. So I'm just giving you a heads up of what's getting ready to take place. You got to know, if black people are always the first to get picked when it comes to the mark of the beast, which will eventually come, guess who they're going to look at first? Because as long as you are not independent, you can be picked and chosen for anything that they want to do to you. So my thing to tell you is, black people, you got to wake up. You got to understand business. You got to learn business. You got to start buying real property. I mean, some real stuff, because this thing is getting real. And I'm just giving you I'm not just giving you a forecast. I'm telling you that the storm that's on its way like a hurricane is heading in this pathway. Black people are about to get ready to be unemployed, and they're going to try to see how many black people they can cut. And if the black people don't stop spending, they're going to keep on cutting until they get as many black people broke. And then when enough black people get broke, inflation will come down. Hard facts, but this is the way that the economy works. So I just wanted to come and drop that on you. And listen, and before, again, I said this before and I'll say it again, don't get super religious. Jesus gonna take care of me. Listen, God gives us wisdom, period. And one of them was to be financially stable. That's a wisdom all through the Bible. Don't come with that. Like I said, it didn't stop COVID. It's not going to stop this. Jerome Powell have already said it. I work in finances. I already know what's coming down the drain. If it was me, I'd be putting up some money for a rainy day, and I would start looking at how can I get to become more independent and not just worry about the system. So that's my time. I'm up and out of here. I pray you be blessed, be watchful, and start making some better financial decisions and really focus on getting real property like a house. Some of y'all are going to give up all your money doing rent. That's why I be telling you, I got somebody that can get you your credit fixed. I can get you a house. I can get all that done. Why would you keep renting? I don't know. But that's everybody's choice. But just know, if you're renting, your rent is going to keep on going up until you eventually move. And then they're going to make sure that some people even become homeless after this. It's crazy. But hey, my time is up. You